We have a big episode tonight. A lot to talk about. We have news on Vallow Daybell. We have news on Bryan Kohberger. We have a brand new podcast that just dropped today that I had never heard of this case. And we have the host here, the investigative journalist who actually is bringing this podcast to life about a case that is so haunting and still has so many questions. We're going to talk to her in just a minute. So stick with us tonight. We have a lot to talk about. So glad you're here. Please let me know where you're watching from and if you have any questions in the comments below. Peggy Jepson, our comment moderator, the mommerator. She is keeping an eye on all of your comments and will bring those to me as we get to it. But speaking of getting to it, let's do it. Big news. Vallow Daybell no longer in Arizona. She is now Idaho's inmate. 153745. She was moved from Maricopa County early yesterday, meaning Monday, and she was flown actually to Idaho. Arizona paid all of the expenses. Flown to Idaho, flown to Pocatello, booked into the prison where she was before, and Maricopa County, they decided to give us some video of it. I don't know if you've seen it. I'm going to play a little bit of it. We posted this on our YouTube channel. You can see Lori very happy to be walking out of there. Of course, when I interviewed her a few weeks ago, she commented that she could not wait to get to Pocatello. And here is, I believe, the maximum security line of inmates in this part of the jail. I believe. I can't confirm that 100%. It's possible. Actually, I do know they moved her from one part of the jail to another within the past week or so. And so that wasn't her permanent cell. It was just one that they moved her to. You could see that she is highly protected, you could say. A lot of security around her. The sheriff deputies walking her out of the jail. I wish, by the way, that they would do this with every inmate. I know a lot of you don't like that they did it. I, as a media person, I think it's fascinating and helps show what goes on in the prison. Many of you asking me, how did she do her hair? How did she do her makeup? She already told me in the past that she used to be a hairdresser and she would use wet washcloths or towels or shirts and get them wet and then roll them up, and then she would curl her hair, and then she would use candy and colored pencils and other things for her makeup. So this is the last time she will be at the Maricopa County Jail. Here she is leaving the jail outside. You can see here in a moment, first of all, look, she is leg shackled, so she can't run, and then she has her handcuffs on, and in a moment here, she looks up at the sky, takes a big, deep breath of air, and I'm not quite sure if she goes, ah, that's nice, I believe is what she said. And here she goes into the car. They, of course, need to belt her in. Now, you might recall when they moved her originally from Idaho to Arizona back in 2023, they drove her. They picked her up, and it took 18 hours to drive her. That obviously took some, I don't know which route they took, and I don't know where they stopped or how long they stopped or if they spent the night somewhere. I don't know all of those details. I know I was able to make it in Arizona in about, well, I did it over 2 days, but probably 14 hours maybe. There she is in the jail. This might be, well, this will be the last time she's in Arizona. I was going to say this might be the last time she's in a police car, but when she landed in Idaho, they were there to pick her up. And you can see here in a minute, they had quite the police line of vehicles to make sure that she got to the airport without any incident. I'm told that it was even unclear when this was going to happen. Like even her own legal team and Lori herself weren't 100% sure when they were going to move her. Obviously, she had somewhat of a heads up because she had her items prepared to go, and I don't know what they let her bring with her in the belongings. When she came to Arizona, she brought some evidence from Idaho for her case. But look, there's several SUVs in a line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Someone said, is it a presidential motorcade? Not quite, not quite. I was once in D.C. when the presidential motorcade came by, and it was quite a sight. And then here they have a drone video of the procession leaving the jail there, Australia jail, and off they go to the airport. The jail is, I believe, only about 10 minutes from the airport, around 10 minutes. It's fairly close. So didn't take long. They dropped her off. I don't know the details of the flight. When they flew her from Hawaii, she was on the very back row of the plane, surrounded by officers, deputies. She was cuffed the whole time. She was wearing normal clothes so that she didn't stand out. She had on a hoodie. And they flew her from Kauai, I believe, over to LA, then up to Seattle, then into Boise, then over to Rexburg. They took kind of not a traditional route that you would take, simply, I think, to avoid media and to go the... and then here she is with those deputies and getting in the car in Idaho. Those are Idaho plates. And that's at the airport. And there she goes. Gate is closed. So she's here in Idaho, in the Pocatello Women's Correctional Center, where she will stay the rest of her life. She's not leaving there, not going anywhere. She has to finish out her life sentence. Well, she says she'll be exonerated before Chad is executed, but we'll see. All right, now on to the other high-profile case in Idaho. Bryan Kohberger, and there's been some interesting developments over the past week or so, well, since we last met here. First of all, this video was leaked or appeared online. It's part of a longer video. I'm not going to show the whole thing. Bryan Kohberger in his cell at the Idaho State Prison. Where did the video come from is the big question. Who shot it? I'll play it one more time. Whoops, not that. This. You can see he's got a tissue or a paper towel in his hand. He's wearing Nikes, it appears. And earlier on in this video, in the extended version, he was using that towel to wipe his shoes. Well, this was floating around TikTok and X late last week. And so I reached out to the prison and I said, is this authentic? And how did it get here? And who shot it and all that? And they wrote back. They said they're investigating it. They're investigating it and that it is against policy for an employee to record any sort of footage or dub any sort of footage or release any sort of footage from security cameras or anything inside the prison. And that they are investigating and that whoever did it will likely be fired and charged criminally. There is some talk that maybe it's AI. I don't know. What do you think? This does not look like AI to me. It's possible it could be, but this looks very authentic to me. And the longer version shows other thing. I mean, that is a close-up of him. And, you know, it's crazy that got out there. But in addition to the video, so that's under investigation, there's been some other developments. The Idaho State Police released all of their investigative documents. And I want to just kind of give you a summary. I posted on my Facebook page, I won't read through it tonight, but you can go check it out, about inmates that were housed with Kohberger in Latah County right after he was arrested. And they talked about how Bryan Kohberger would watch himself on the news and be like, man, I'm on every channel. That's all they're talking about. He loved to watch himself. He loved court TV. But he'd shut off the television once they started to talk about his family. It seemed to bother him. He was meticulous in keeping himself clean. He'd shower for 1 hour every day. They'd get 3 bars of soap and he'd scrub his hands till they were red. We've heard about these characteristics of him in the past. Well, he also had a reputation for being sexist and creepy while attending a criminal justice program in Idaho, at the University of Idaho, or before he killed the University of Idaho students. He was a student at Washington State University. We've heard that. And a faculty member, quoting from the AP, told coworkers that if he ever became a professor, Kohberger, he would likely stalk or sexually abuse his future students, according to the documents released from Idaho State Police. The professor urged her coworkers to cut Kohberger's funding to remove him from the program. Quote, he is smart enough that in 4 years, we will have to give him a PhD, the woman told her colleagues, according to the report from Idaho State Police. She continued, "Mark my word, I work with predators. If we give him a PhD, that's the guy that in that many years, when he is a professor, we will hear is harassing, stalking, and sexually abusing his students at wherever university." That's crazy. Summaries of the interviews with students and instructors at Washington State were included among the 550 pages released by ISP. This comes in response to public records requests. Kohberger, of course, is serving life in prison for killing Kaylee Gonzalez, Madison Mogen, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin back on November 13th of 2022. The faculty member told investigators that Kohbergers would sometime go into an office where several female grad students worked, physically blocking the door. Sometimes she would hear one of the women say, "I really need to get out of here." So she would intercede by going into the office to allow the student to leave. Just one of those creepy guys that you just don't want to be around. It's what it sounds like. The faculty member believed Kohberger was stalking people. She told police that someone had reportedly broken into a female graduate student's apartment in September or October and stole perfume and underwear. An unnamed PhD student in the same program as Kohberger told police that he enjoyed conflict, was disparaging toward women, and he especially liked to talk about sexual burglary, his field of study. Some people in the department thought he was a possible future rapist and speculated he might be an incel, she told the officer. About 3 weeks after the murders, Kohberger told the PhD student that whoever had committed the crimes he committed, quote, "must have been pretty good." Idaho State Police Detective Sergeant Michael Van Leuven wrote. Kohberger also told the woman that the murders might have been a, quote, "one and done type thing." The women, quote, said she had never met anyone who acted in such a condescending manner and wondered why people in power in the department did not address the behavior. The way he spoke to females in the department was unsettling. One instructor told police that she was assigned to work with him on his doctoral program. In late August of 2022, just months before the murder, she said she began receiving complaints about Kohberger. The instructor told police that she spent a lot of time speaking about Kohberger during disciplinary meetings. Quote, "The meetings focused around Kohberger's interactions with fellow postgraduate students in and out of the classroom, along with his behavior around some of the criminal justice professors," according to the investigation. The school got 9 separate complaints from faculty members, administration, students, and other students about his, quote, rude and belittling behavior toward women. In response, the school held a mandatory training class for all graduate students. Many of Kohberger's fellow students and instructors did not suspect his involvement in the killings, according to police reports, but at least one fellow student noticed that his behavior changed after the murders. The student said Kohberger frequently used his phone before the killings, but afterward, he didn't bring it to class. He also appeared more disheveled in the weeks after the killings, and she thought it was odd that he never participated in conversations about the Moscow deaths. She eventually called in the police tip line to report that she had seen Kohberger with bloody knuckles just prior to the killings, and his hand looked like he had been hit with something or that he had hit something or hitting something. Wild. And so why are these coming out all now? Well, this was going to be stuff that was going to be in the trial, which, had this gone to trial, opening statements would have been yesterday. We'd be right on day 2 of testimony of 3 months. And so this would all come out. They likely would call those people, those professors, those other students that expressed concerns, call them to be witnesses and let them talk about their experiences. Because there's no trial, now the records become open to the public, at least some of them. And this is where we pivot into the next part of our discussion tonight regarding some crime scene photos. Now, Moscow, the city, so there's all these agencies, and they all have their own records. Moscow Police, Idaho State Police. I don't think Attorney General has any records. Pullman Police in Washington. All of these agencies have these records, and when they're requested by media or the public, you have a right to public records. You watching, you might have to pay, depending on the state and the rules, but you have a right to get these records. Well, the city of Moscow was apparently got a public records request for the crime scene photos, and they released them. And KTVB in Boise aired them, some of them blurred. And there was some outcry. And now the city of Moscow is temporarily restricting the release. By the way, I say KTVB, they were the first to air them, and then many other media outlets posted them too. I did not find any others in Idaho that did, but I know like national media did. The international media did. There could have been some in Idaho, but was not aware of any. We did not publish them at East Idaho News. The city of Moscow is temporarily restricting the release. So after this happened about a week ago. Now the city of Moscow is temporarily releasing images and videos from the house where the students were killed because of a judge's order. Because Madison Mogen's mother filed a petition for a temporary restraining order after hundreds of crime scene photos were released by the city in response to a public records request. KTVB was the first news outlet to publicize a handful of the redacted photos, and since then, dozens of other outlets have published some of the released images. In the week since Bryan Kohberger was sentenced, law enforcement agencies have been releasing these information. This is, by the way, the Idaho Statesman that I'm quoting from. On Friday, 2nd Judicial District Judge Megan Marshall issued a temporary restraining order prohibiting the city's release of any images, audio, or video depicting the inside of Mogen's bedroom, Madison's bedroom, until a hearing can be held on the injunction. The judge said that the images that have been released have not constituted an unwarranted invasion of privacy, but there are portions of videos and photos, specifically body camera footage, that haven't been released, and even if they're redacted, they could constitute an unwarranted invasion of privacy. Because of this, the city is not releasing anything until the judge decides. And the Gonzalez family, once those photos were put out there, posted on Facebook, in regards to the crime scene photos being released of Kaylee, Maddie, Ethan, and Xana, we know they are out there, but we are begging you not to share them. These pictures are extremely private and cause immense pain and trauma for all of our families. So we'll see what the judge rules. There are some cases, like in the Daybell case, Judge Boyce permanently sealed 99 or 110 of the most graphic photos, and so they'll never be out. But you think about it, some YouTuber out there, some podcaster, some TikToker could go and request all of those photos and put them all online. All of them. The blood, all of it. And legally, do they have the right? Sure. And if the judge rules about the injunction, but if not, up to that point, all the photos that the other outlets obtained, anybody could get and put them out there. So it's one of those balances of protecting the victims and their rights with the First Amendment and the rights for the media. It's a thing. Personally, I would never want to look at the crime scene photos, at least the most graphic ones. I do find sometimes that those can be interesting to learn from, to see what these suspects do, these perpetrators do. And maybe it's one of those things with time. You don't do it right away. But anyway, that's where we stand tonight on Bryan Kohberger and his case. And there's going to be more coming out on him. There is, because all of these documents are being released, and there's just so much that's coming out.